This just in. We're speaking facts. Whatever.
It's so dangerous, and it was so painful. So
too much.
I mean, it's not.
No, that's
massive,
still high. That's still
but
high.
it's
I
still
wouldn't
pretty
get on an
high.
airplane if I had a 10 to 20 or 10 to 40% chance of crashing. Like, that's terrifying. Well, I might make it, and I'll let you know. Just out of pure curiosity and, like, free time.
Get back to us. Because this topic is, we started off pretty light, but this topic definitely is a heavier one.
But today is different because we're not going to Tangent City today. We're just speaking facts.
We are. Today's episode it's almost like a tougher topic to speak on.
Yes.
Especially because we both have such tough stories to kind of incorporate into all this information we're about to say.
It will be emotionally triggering, but that's why we're here together in a duo episode.
We are.
And I'll hit it with just the two of us. Yeah.
We totally jumped the gun. Let me hit it with the intro now.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to the Guess Where I Am podcast.
And who I'm with?
I'm Koke.
I'm Louise.
And we are with each other.
We're back. And it's a duo episode. And we're super smart today, if you cannot tell.
We got our glasses, we got our button-ups on, just the top button.
Yeah, because we still have to be cute.
Yeah, we're just girls.
The full button-up doesn't fit the vibe. This is like somewhere in between. Yeah, and the glasses.
For the glasses, key factor to the situation. I can't see anything. Yours don't even have a lens in it.
I don't even have lenses. Mine actually don't do anything. I can poke myself in the eye. Anyway.
I love that for you. But we didn't even say where we are.
Oh, right.
We're still in the same places.
Yeah.
Nothing new there. I'm still in Seattle.
I'm in Connecticut. Yeah, I was actually, you know what? I was supposed to go to salsa class tonight and I got canceled. Angry.
Oh.
I know, I'm learning how to salsa. Yeah, it's free and it's at a bar on Thursdays. And it's like they do happy hour. I don't usually get drinks. I literally go there just to learn how to salsa. However, it is really stressful because like first you stand in a line and like you learn the basics. And then they have you switch lines and suddenly you're in the front and you're like, okay, well this is really scary because like I'm smacked down, like I'm front and center. Yeah. And then it gets even more scary and they break you up into like girls and guys because guys lead in salsa. And so then you're dancing with strangers and like salsa's a really like intimate dance. Like you gotta get up close and personal and you're being spun around. And so dancing with strangers, really scary. But like now I feel like I can say I know how to salsa.
Yeah. That's a cool thing to have up your sleeve.
Yeah, if I ever find myself in this situation. But don't ask me how to do any other dance moves. And it's not fluid, but soon enough, I'll get really good.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
What have you been up to?
Like, such a good question. Watching Love Island.
Okay.
Nothing too exciting, nothing new, nothing crazy. Still have little Miss Kitty Girl, which is so exciting. I think you can see her a little bit in this shot if you're watching. But I have a lot planned for July and August.
Cool.
This past month, June, has been pretty chill. Pretty tame.
Hey, we all need that sometimes.
Yeah.
Some tame, slow months.
I go on a nice daily 3-mile walk around Green Lake, but that's about it.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Hot girl walk.
Trying to get those 10K steps in. Yep.
Damn. I'm like happy if I get like 3,000 steps in.
Yeah. It's definitely an effort to push myself to do. But I love it. See some very interesting characters.
I believe it.
Out there.
I believe it's, I mean, Seattle, I just feel like is full of interesting people.
It is.
Whereas Connecticut is all the same person.
Yeah. No variety.
There's very little variety.
Yeah.
But like all my friends are super cool, so not to not to diss them.
Yeah,
But like everyone else, you're like, come on, give me something.
Need some spice.
That's why I don't fit in here. No one would wear this super cool outfit that I got going on right now.
And the fake glasses.
And the fake glasses, yeah. This is a singular experience. Okay, well, should we just skip the nonsense and get into the episode?
Let's do it. Because this topic is, we started off pretty light, but this topic definitely is a heavier one. So, like, sit down, get ready.
You might want to be in your like safe space and your comfy clothes for sure. Grab some comfort food. That one's helpful. What's your comfort food?
Popcorn.
Oh, I should have guessed that. I knew that your favorite snack was popcorn. I love mac and cheese. Now, what would happen if we were to combine mac and cheese and popcorn?
Cheesy popcorn already exists.
Yeah, but what if we like not powderified the cheese? I'm talking about like nacho popcorn.
Could be good, but you might lose the crunch of the popcorn, which I think is like a great aspect of it.
Yeah. Shoot. Well, I might make it and I'll let you know. Just out of pure curiosity and like free time.
Get back to us.
Yeah.
Munchies for real.
That's as munchy as it gets. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, glasses.
Glasses off. Only, at least in my case, because it's hard.
Can't see it. Well, we can also unbutton as well.
Okay.
All right. Let's get into today's episode. Do you want to preface what it is?
This episode, we've kind of hinted at in the past. I know, especially the episode I had with Joe, I mentioned, because we always had this idea to talk about, but we weren't sure when we'd actually ever be ready to talk about this, because it's one of those heavier topics to kind of talk about, and that is mental health, physical health, basically everything and anything health related while traveling.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Specifically, we're going to be going into mental health, physical health, and like how to manage those and the pros and cons, the benefits to each, how to manage travel fatigue, because that is something that hits me really hard when I'm traveling for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then what to do if you find yourself really hurt or really sick and needing to go to the hospital in a foreign country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that we have experience in all of these things, but it happens, and we're here to help you prepare for if and when that happens.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
That's what they all say, though, and that's why people don't get travel insurance, because they're like, I'm not going to get sick, and then, like, that's when you find your ass in the hospital.
That's what I said, and I will forever thank this one girl, Maria, for telling me in the bathroom. I remember this day so clearly, in a really shitty hostel in Sydney, the one with the loud snorer. You guys all remember the story. Yeah. Meeting this girl in the bathroom, and she was like, I don't even know how we got into the conversation, honestly. I think it was just one of those like, oh, like, what are you doing today? Oh, like, doing admin stuff. And at the time, I was like, who calls it admin stuff? Like, what is admin stuff? But, like, everybody in Australia calls, like, a working computer day admin. I was like, okay.
I love it.
She's like, I'm going to get some travel insurance. And I'm like, oh, like, how long are you going to be here for? Like, what do you mean? Like, what? And then she's like, what do you mean? Do you not have travel insurance? And then it was just this whole back and forth. And in this 5-10 minute conversation, she convinced me to get it. And thank God she did, is all I'll say for right now.
Wait to hear more. That's your teaser. That's your preface, the epilogue, right? Or is it the preface and then the epilogue?
It's the preface.
Okay, yeah, so this is the preface. Okay. All right. Should have kept the glasses on.
Yeah. That's smart. You know, put that brain cell back in.
Give me the brain cell. Remember when we used to do that? I feel like we had...
pass it back and forth.
Yeah, we had one shared brain cell. And we would, pass it back.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Let's get into topic
not our
one.
Day.
Mental health. While traveling, I personally did a lot of research about the benefits of your mental health while you're traveling, if that's something you want to dive into. What did you do? You listened to podcasts. I read journals and articles. So we're two very different people.
Yes. And I was also deep diving social media. And I knew that you were the type of person to do that kind of research. So that's why I was also specifically trying to do a different kind of research to also see what's out there so we can fill the gap.
Yeah.
And put something out there, because it was quite hard to find. Like, I honestly didn't find much about this topic.
I found a lot like articles and like surveys and study-wise. But I mean, I didn't do any of the research that you did of like finding people's actual opinions and perspectives. Yeah. So that's really smart that you actually did research like that, because I didn't even think about like checking social media. I was like, what does the CDC have to say about this?
Yeah. Well, no, but that's good to like have that different side of it, because also right now on TikTok especially, you're seeing these trends of people before and after backpacking, and then all the comments are like, oh, their soul is healed.
It looks like people should not have a job. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. 99% of the time they are coming back healthy and healed.
Healthier and hotter. Everyone comes back with a glow up. And I actually feel like I came back from New Zealand with the glow down. I had the worst acne in my life that I had to go on Accutane. And that is on travel fatigue and not being able to manage it and not eating well. And I was unhappy. So we'll get into all of that.
Which we'll get into, exactly.
We'll get into all of that.
But I think starting with mental health is a good segue into the rest of all like the health.
So I guess I'll start maybe with then some of my research, because then you might have like, oh yeah, and I heard about that from this. So I like went through, and we'll put all the sources to everything in the bio if anyone wants to do further research or like fact check, but also take everything that we say with a grain of salt, because everyone's perspectives will be different. But I tried to do a lot of cross references from like journals of studies people did at like Cornell or in Singapore to like National Geographic to the CDC, you know, so there's a lot of cross opinions.
Big range.
Yes, and these are some of the things that I found that were the same, that most people like I guess agreed with. The first one, which I thought was so interesting, was when you travel, you can find you'll have an enhanced emotional agility, which I think is also the same word as your emotional intelligence becomes better. So specifically, a study in 2013 of 485 US adults linked travel to an enhanced sense of empathy, attention, energy, and focus. And so the idea is when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations or like just foreign traveling and trying to manage all of that, you have to be able to also manage your emotions and figure out how to deal with that in like the correct way. And I think that's like a massive benefit, because you'll find yourself in stressful situations or upsetting situations where like you need to figure out how to react properly, and traveling is a great way to learn about that.
I think it heightens all of your senses, because think about when you're at home. This is something that one of the podcasts I listened to mentioned. Think about when you're driving home and from work or wherever you are, somewhere that you're there nearly every day, school, and you get home and you're like, I don't remember that entire drive. Like you just got home on autopilot. When you're in another country or traveling or anywhere new, you can't rely on that autopilot and that function. You're hyper aware of everything and anything going on around you. But yeah, so you're on autopilot most of the time when you're home. This isn't obviously the case for everybody every day, but your brain, when you're away, has to be more switched on. And I think there's a lot of growth that comes from that and these new novel experiences that you're happening, because everything, for the most part, is going to be new when you're going on vacation.
Yeah, and you're going to have to like use pieces of yourself and exercise versions of your like self mentally and internally that you don't usually get to work out when you're trapped in a routine.
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of goes with that is that some people, they did like a research on Dutch workers, and when they went on international holiday, they learned that they broaden their sense of creativity, not necessarily artistically, but ways of thinking, living, and problem solving, which I completely agree with. And I never even thought about that when you are interacting with so many different people, or you find yourself in a new situation, you have to think outside of the box or problem solve in a way that if you're stuck in your 9 to 5 constant routine going on autopilot, you won't find yourself like you learning those skills.
Yeah. It just goes to the fact of meeting new people, experiencing all these new things. It's just so mind-opening.
Yeah.
And you're learning so much and you're growing so much. So I would like to say that these are more of the positive sides of it.
Oh, for sure.
But
there's
there
one more
are a
positive
lot.
side before we get to the negative side, where another sciencey fact that I read that I thought was
like... Put those glasses back on.
Also, yeah, honestly, fuck it. Hold on, let me put my glasses on for this mental health section. And then when we get to the CDC, you bet your ass these glasses are also going to be back on. These are my two personalities. I have two wolves inside of me. Yeah. And one is the party girl, and the other one is the one who wears fake glasses.
So good. No, you need to. With all these facts that you're spitting, I
know. Yeah, the world isn't ready for me when I, like, focus on one thing. Okay. I, like, can't take myself seriously.
You don't have to look at yourself?
No, I'm, like, really serious right now. So, the last positive that I have is there was a Cornell University study, and they focused on how the anticipation of a trip or a vacation increases someone's happiness more than buying material goods. And I have to agree with that 110% because I have like a trip booked, and the serotonin I feel when I'm like booking flights and like booking excursions and like being able to consume a trip that's going to happen has increased my happiness, because whenever I'm driving around Stanford, I'm like, see ya, I'm leaving in a month or whatever, you know, like, peace out. This is going to be so exciting. And so, yeah, you know, if you're depressed, maybe you should just book a trip.
And book it for, if you know you can't afford it in a month or two, book it for a year in advance.
Yeah.
At least you have time, and then you still have something to look forward to. And I feel like I discovered that about myself at a very young age with buying concert tickets. Okay. I always had a concert booked. I always had something to look forward to, and thinking about my outlook on life and how much it increased for the better when I was living in Savannah knowing I was moving to Australia. I feel like I was just an all-around happier, healthier, better, nicer person because I had this trip to look forward to and this life-changing experience. Not even a trip, like I was moving, or thought I was moving at that point. But it's so true. Like, yeah. I think that's a very interesting study that was done.
And also, people love to talk about their travels. You know, like, you want to go because of the lore. And then you get to talk about it to all your friends or a podcast. Whoa.
Like, we're literally here for a reason.
Drug. Yeah. That is serotonin straight into the veins. Yeah. Anyway, now to the negatives. Which the only...
Not so fun parts.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess, actually, no, I'm not ready to mention the negatives yet. I still have more positives to say.
Oh, love. Hit it.
I'm going to rapid fire. This.
I'll take a sip of my coffee.
This will help with, honestly, any type of burnout. Job burnout, life burnout, I don't know. For me, traveling, you know, we went to Australia after college. I was so burnt out. After college, I even questioned my major. I was like, did I just waste 4 years of my life? I was like, I freaking hate this. And then I went backpacking. And like you said, getting away from that routine that I just felt lost in and on autopilot, and not having to do something 24/7 reignited my passion and helped me reconnect with those career goals and passions that I had. And like also the confidence that I gained from meeting new people and having to put myself out there has now like made my character and like my be more extroverted in a social situation, whether that's like on a date or networking or at a party or at a bar. Like I'm less stressed, I'm less overthinking because I used all those tools and practiced them while I was traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to that point that you mentioned a few episodes ago about lying to lie.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you're practicing for these situations that may come or may never come. But lying to lie when you're traveling, it allows you to explore these different versions of yourself.
Totally.
Which I think is very, very important.
Yeah. Okay, so now to the negatives.
To the negatives, I would like to say the biggest thing I think there is, at least personally, that I experienced while traveling in regards to mental health is FOMO.
Oh.
Which is crazy because everybody you know back home is probably so envious and jealous of you, the person traveling. But there's also the side of the person traveling missing those big events back home with family and friends. Like I think about, I haven't spent Christmas with my family in a few years, or Thanksgiving, or people's birthdays, or my friends' graduations. I'm missing all of these things. And it's hard for me to see or to hear about. I almost like don't want to talk about it at the time because I'm processing it while I'm away. But then it also makes me feel guilty because it's like I did choose to move, to go traveling, to live this nomad life. And I feel bad that I'm missing these events. But I'm also somewhere that's so beautiful, and it's like, how can I be depressed somewhere as beautiful as New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Philippines, like all these amazing places?
Yeah.
So I think personally, I experienced FOMO a lot, and that hit me really hard.
Did you do anything to try and like fight that FOMO? Like how would you like get over that, or would you say that was kind of like a constant?
It was definitely a constant thing that I struggled with because every situation, every time I was feeling like that, it was very different circumstances. It helped to talk with those people, especially, I think the biggest thing was family and seeing my cousins and my immediate family get together and celebrate people's birthdays or graduations or holidays or everything and anything. Because I'm super close with my family, but then calling them separately. Calling my mom, calling my sister, calling my brother, calling my cousin, like all of those things, and talking to them separately, or even just FaceTiming them while they're there. Like I was virtually there with them for a lot of these things, and it hurt. It hurt more after the fact. I was definitely able to put on that brave face during the calls and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, yeah, I'm having the best time out here. But then I'm like, but what I would do to also be back home with you guys right now is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's something I knew I would experience when I moved. And something that my mom also prepared me for on a deeper level is like my grandma passing away. We kind of knew it was going to happen in the more recent years when I was first planning to move out there. So that was a big conversation that we had, and jumping the gun on this conversation a little bit in this episode, but thankfully it happened while I was in North America. So I was able to grieve with my family. But in a different situation, I did grieve somebody else while in Australia. This episode it's tough.
Ouch.
It's crazy.
Ouch.
I can go on such...
You need a break. Someone needs to give you a break. Where's your...
I could go down like such a sad, deep
break?
route with this kind of conversation. So when we said get your comfort food and dress comfy, like we meant it. Like This isn't going to be a
Yeah.
typical happy, lighthearted episode. It's going to be very informative, but sad, I think, is the general tone.
Heavy. I will say, on your FOMO point, like, time is a bitch, and you can't get any time back, and you can't make more time in the day, and you can't be in two places at once. So you, like, choosing to travel, like you said, is such a big choice because of the time that you might lose with someone else, and you can't predict those things with like that. I always like to think like these people who I might have lost while I was away would want me to be experiencing these things and furthering myself as a person and growing more and making these mistakes and learning them and meeting all these great people. Like, if you weren't in Australia, you wouldn't have met Joe, and that's like something that I'm sure the people you would have lost, like, they want you to fall in love and like have those moments, and those are like important things that you need to remind yourself, where like, yes, you do feel guilty, but there's honestly not, like, it is what it is, and that's part of life. Is like, you'll just always find yourself in terrible sucky situations.
A lot of expecting the unexpected, which is a quote from my favorite TV show, Big Brother. But you do have to plan for things that you would never expect to happen, which the personal experiences that I will eventually share in this episode are things I would have never thought could happen to me while traveling. But they did, and we're now here to help set you up for it.
But with that point, it's exactly what I said with your increased emotional agility, is that now, you know, you deal with all these things that you don't expect to deal with, but you learn how to handle that and how to grieve while you're abroad and how to heal while you're abroad. Because, like, old wounds can open. You really just never know what's going to happen when you're put in a situation where it's just you and no one else, and missing holidays and stuff like that. It's definitely tough. I sometimes get FOMO with my career, like on social media, especially, and like disconnecting I find is really important. And when you choose to connect with the people that you truly care about. So kind of like what you said, like, call your family, call your friends. But there's really like, social media and like comparison really is the death of joy.
Yeah.
And you should not compare your life to like other people and what they have going on. You know, just be grateful that we are able to wake up every day and have the opportunities that we have to like be in a new area.
Because it is such a blessing that we even are able to travel in the first place. Like, this definitely is one of those nicher things to experience, of traveling and feeling FOMO, all these mental health problems that come with it, but it's real for the people that do experience it.
Another, I guess, and this kind of bleeds into topic 2, if you're ready to move on from topic 1, is still like a con of mental health, is travel fatigue.
Yes.
And in my opinion, I was like, what is travel fatigue? Well, travel fatigue is a monster. Travel fatigue is a monster under your dorm room bunk bed. It is in your closet and is terrifying, but it's a totally normal feeling of getting exhausted and losing motivation while traveling and wanting like a low stimulation environment.
Yes.
Like maybe your own room or your own bathroom, like you're sick and tired of sharing stuff. I dealt with travel fatigue really hard towards the end of my 6 months of backpacking. Part of that reason is I think I didn't really notice what it was. I thought maybe it was like kind of a sense of depression because my acne was getting so bad. And I was like, I don't want to be perceived anymore. I honestly think it was just travel fatigue and being like, I want to go home. But there are ways of dealing with travel fatigue that aren't like packing up your stuff, getting on a flight, and going home. Do you have any opinions on travel fatigue before I get into mine?
Yeah. This is like definitely a lot of what the podcasts I was listening to were talking about. One of them was all about travel fatigue, which another word for it is travel burnout.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's another word that people can relate to, because it is something that's super common, is just burnout in general. And it could happen while traveling when you have too much of a good thing. You're traveling so much. And it also relates back to one of the positives that we even talked about with the mental energy that you're using. Yes, you're growing, but it's also taking so much of that mental energy that it can lead to a bad thing very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even notice it.
And it's not just physical.
So that was my first point, is like, notice it. Notice what you're feeling. Recognize what you're feeling. Don't run from it. And then I think like balance is key, because it's hard when you're spending so much money in a new place and there's so many cool things to do. You're like, when you're sitting at home, right, and you're stuck in your routine and you're depressed and you're getting so excited booking everything, you're like, yeah, I can do 2 things on this day, 3 things on this day, 2 things on that day, 1 thing on that day. You have to remember, when you're sitting there and you're planning all of this, you need to take break days. The balance is really important, of having like a true vacation day of like sitting by the pool, sitting on the beach, just going to a restaurant, sleeping in one day. Because if you just have high intensity days for your whole trip, that's, in my opinion, when travel fatigue hits you. And so it's okay to balance like 3 heavy days with 1 really low day. And that's just reading a book, going to a bar at night. Like, just take it really slow, because usually, in my opinion, by the end of that, like, your low intensity day, you're like, I can't wait to do something tomorrow. And then that's what gets you excited.
You're re-energized. That was one of my big points too, is to plan those rest days. Get out of those touristy areas. Almost treat yourself also like a local of these areas. Do something that you do in your normal day-to-day life in this new area. Go on a walk.
Yeah.
But not a planned 20-kilometer hike as a walk.
Nope.
Just go around whatever neighborhood you're staying at. Do something calming. Do something peaceful. If you don't have the energy to do all of these things on a normal day, you're not going to have the energy to do them while you're out in another country. It can be realistic if you're only somewhere for a few days and you want to try and squeeze as much as you can. But if you're going to be somewhere for longer than a week, one of those days needs, like, it's genuinely a requirement that it needs to be a break day. Like, that's no ifs, ands, or buts.
And if there's someone in the world who can actually do that, I want to be friends with them so badly and see how they do that.
See how they function.
Because I don't know anyone who can go that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way.
Like bus, club, another bus. Like, it's literally that sound.
Yeah.
No, like, it's just not feasible to be doing that consistently for your life, especially if you're making traveling your full-time job. It just literally, take a break. You deserve it.
And there's actually like one thing in Australia, I think I talked about it with you, just not on the podcast, but me and my friend, I didn't even realize what this was until like recently, but we came up with the idea of quiet time. That's what we would call it. And quiet time was like, we're in the same room. It was me and my friend just like unintentionally found ourselves traveling together, like heading down the same route around like 1 or 2 days apart from each other. And so we'd be like, oh, you want to do quiet time together? And that's like, we would sit in our bunk beds or like in the hostel living space with each other, completely silent, doing our own things. Like, and we would hold ourselves accountable for our quiet time, which is like, I didn't realize that was like basically us having our slow days and fighting travel fatigue. This was really important after we did Fraser Island, which was like 3 really hardcore social activity, like intense camping type days. So much fun. But it was her and our other friend, their names are Hadar and Floor. The 3 of us had a hostel room, just the 3 of us together, and we promised each other on the ferry back from the island, like, we are so excited to take a shower, do our laundry, and then just have quiet time together for like 8 hours the rest of the night until we were like leaving the next day. And then of freaking course, boys, because they're always the goddamn problem. There were 3 Australian boys who were staying at this hostel, and there was only like 1 shower in the area where our room was. So we were taking turns. And so while Hadar is in the shower, me and Floor are sitting outside waiting for the shower when these 3 Australian guys come up to us and they're like, oh, girls, like, drink with us. You guys should drink with us. And we're like, no, like, we don't want to. We had promised each other quiet time, and we're going to respect quiet time because it's going to come after the shower. And they're like, oh, come on, it's going to be so fun. Like, let's have fun. Let's party. We're like, no, we're okay. Hadar comes back. I take a shower. I don't know what happens. I'm in the shower. I don't know what happens. But then I go back to our room afterwards, and Hadar and Flora are like staring at me silently. And I'm like, guys, what? Like, it's quiet time. Like, I'm so excited. And Hadar was like, I agreed that we would drink with the boys at 7.
Yep.
No. Tragedy. I was like, our quiet time is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important to have that refresh. And I was like, no. And the night goes on from there into something quite chaotic. Yeah. But I didn't get that quiet time. And that was so important and detrimental to healing from the intensity of Fraser Island.
Yeah.
I think I ended up doing quiet time in the next place that I was at, but I don't really remember.
Yeah. That was such a good, clear example of angel and devil. And in that case, the devil won.
The devil won.
The guys, they sucked you out of your quiet time that you so badly needed.
Yeah.
But it's okay because that's just also a part of traveling. And I feel like even if you did have that quiet time, you might have also been thinking, what if I did go out with these guys that night? What could have that night turned into?
What could have been?
It's that balance, and it's so, so difficult to have while traveling. But you have to balance it. You have to find that line that you can survive off of.
Yeah, entirely. All right, topic 3. Are we ready to move to topic 3?
I believe so.
Okay, so this was physical health benefits. Or I always looked into everything positive. I didn't look into the negative thing at all. I was like, negative's not my problem. Yeah. I don't think about the negative. I live my life in optimism.
Rainbow
or
effect.
at least I try. Glass half full.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess this is where I mentioned the CDC stuff, so should I put my glasses back on?
And again,
I feel like Clark Kent.
you are a different person.
I am. But that means then without my glasses I become Superman or Superwoman. I don't think I'm strong or hot enough for that. I can't carry the responsibility. I can't. Please, guys, don't give me the responsibility. Okay, so the Center of Disease Control. I didn't realize how many resources the CDC has on their website for people traveling. They have this whole page called Traveler Advice, and it's for before, during, and after your trip. And they get into like specific on like what type of travel you're doing, whether it's for adventure, humanitarian aid, medical tourism, business, and more. You can click on those tabs and they have so much information. They have advice for travel insurance. They have advice for vaccinations and like a healthcare checklist if you really want to get like, if you're a hypochondriac and you're like, I need to have everything. Like they have a checklist for you that's really great. They have tips and information while you're on your trip on how to deal with jet lag, food poisoning, high altitude, sun exposure, and more. And they also have like government resources. This is like US specific, but they have like the embassies, customs information, and a CIA world fact book for country background information for places that you're going to. They also recommend for you to delay your travel if you're not fully vaccinated for things like, what's the malaria? Is malaria the one with the, like that mosquitoes?
Yeah.
Really important vaccination to have. So if you're like kind of scared and stressed about the place you're going and want to cover all the bases beyond what our amazing podcast can offer, I think the CDC website and this Traveler's Advice tab, which is in the description, is so helpful. Like I wish I had found this sooner because I am a bit of an overthinker that like when I was sick with salmonella, it would have been really nice if I went to the CDC website, went to their food poisoning page, and saw all of the information they have on like how to deal with dehydration and like when do you need to go and see a doctor, you know?
Yeah.
It's great. It's great for a hypochondriac like me. I get one cut and I'm like, my leg's coming off.
But honestly, even for somebody who's not a hypochondriac, like I kind of am as well, but it's just good information to have and to know that it's out there and just a quick resource to go to for everything and anything.
Yeah.
Travel, health.
And for after, they have stuff about after and like STD testing and stuff like that. Things that are really important physically for your body. Yeah, love it.
So interesting.
And then I have 3 other physical bullet points that maybe you have something to talk about. The first 2 that are really important is movement and diet. Like we were talking about earlier, you were saying you were doing 10,000 steps a day. I'm like, I'm happy if I do 3,000. When you are traveling, bro, you're getting like 20,000 steps a day, and that's really healthy. One memory I have is like at the beginning of Australia, carrying my backpack and everything was super difficult. I'd get out of breath. By the end of Australia, I like remember the specific moment when I was in Melbourne and I was like having to go up 5 flights of stairs because the elevator was like slow, and I was like, I don't need it, with all of my gear on, and I didn't even break a sweat, and I was like, damn,
look at that.
I got kind of strong after 6 months. I was like, look at me go. And my mom even told me when she picked me up from the airport, I finally was home, she was like, you look strong. And I was like, yeah, like I guess I got kind of strong.
Wait, love.
Yeah, because it's a diet and movement. You're eating healthier and you're moving a lot more as physical activities. Great.
It's this different world and different lifestyle that you step into when you travel, and for the most part it's always going to be, well, it's going to be healthier in the movement aspect. I can't necessarily say it'll be healthier in the food aspect. I guess it depends on where you go.
True.
Because it's so
and I
so
guess the
easy.
alcohol you consume.
The alcohol, especially the party scene that there is when backpacking, and the convenience of you don't cook your own food for the most part, unless you're staying stationary somewhere and kind of creating this home base. But when you're traveling from city to city every other day, you're most likely not buying groceries. You're just going out for every meal. So it can become unhealthy very quick. I remember my first time when I was in Australia for a month, I only cooked once. One meal out of the entire month I was there. And I thought that was like a crazy concept to do. But one of my friends, Amelia, who we actually had on in season 1, she basically forced me. She's like, no, we're cooking dinner. And it was just pasta and red sauce, but still, like, that just goes to show it's like really not something you think about and plan that much when you're traveling so quickly.
I think I say it often on the podcast, my first round in Australia, I don't remember when I ate, and I only cooked once as well, and it was ravioli.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even finish it. I left it in the fridge for like the whole 3 months that I was there. And then I think peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Classic. How Selena knew you were American.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually such a good point, because my first time around Australia, I literally don't know when I ate or what I ate, because I was hitting the party scene hard.
Yeah. We saved the money for
At least
alcohol.
I was dancing, like I was working out in other ways.
Yeah.
The other thing I have about physical stuff is I just read this from a information sheet from the International Society of Travel Medicine, whatever. They said that nature-based tourism, which I think living in Seattle, you might have something to say about this, but can increase how much you care about the environment, but also they call it forest bathing, so like getting into the forest. It can apparently lower your blood pressure and boost your immune system, and this is because we breathe in natural chemicals called phytoncides. I don't know how to pronounce it at all. Phytoncides. Phytoncides.
Couldn't even attempt that.
I couldn't even figure it out with my glasses on. But when you breathe in those chemicals that are released by trees and plants, it can improve your mood and reduce anxiety. I think that's why like a lot of people who live in like Colorado or the Pacific Northwest, where you have access to like trees in the outdoor, it can be so beneficial for your physical and mental health because you're getting out there, but then also you're touching grass. So it's like you're regrounding yourself.
That was one of my points, literally was touch grass, exclamation point. It could help with so many things, and this could just be us being a little bit woo-woo and hippy-dippy.
Crystals.
Yeah, Pete, my crystal necklace. It is so true. There's genuinely so much science and facts behind it and how beneficial it can be. And for the most part, when you're traveling, you're going to be outside. Like, I'm struggling to picture somewhere I've traveled to where I'm not outside. For the most part. Like, yes, you go into places, but when you travel, you're going from place to place. So it's like the transportation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just go outside. It's so good for you.
Really
and
is.
incorporate that into your travels, and it'll help with the longevity of your physical and your mental health.
And I also love the title forest bathing. Like, imagine texting your friends, sorry, girls, I'm going forest bathing today. See you later. Or, like,
Yeah.
girl activity, get your besties and go forest bathe. Come on.
Sounds so good.
Why is that
Sign me
not
up.
in, like, common language? Like,
Yeah.
bring forest bathing just to your everyday life.
You need
awesome.
to move to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Or I'm just going to call it for everything. You can say, like, oh, I'm going beach bathing. Beach,
Yeah.
another word for a beach day.
Beach bathing. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we
Yeah.
can move on unless you have some interesting stuff to say about physical.
No. I think we kind of touched.
Meow.
She's moving appearance. I mean, she's been in shot this entire time.
Cutie.
In the corner. I think now's a good time to kind of go into, is this the last topic? Is this the...
It's not the last topic,
Okay.
but it is the second to last topic.
Okay.
Which is what to do when you're sick and find yourself in a hospital or needing a hospital.
Yeah.
Do you want to just carry, or I can say stuff about salmonella first, and then you could hit them hard.
Yeah. Maybe
Salmonella might be
start.
like dipping your toe in the
Yes.
pool, and then your issue is like face diving straight into the deep end.
Yeah, so you start.
Okay.
We'll ease them into it. And if you
Yes.
don't like what Louise has to say, just end the episode. This isn't for you.
So, I mean, there's a really great quote that I don't know who says it, but health is not valued till sickness comes. And you want to be prepared for that, even though you're super healthy. You just don't know when it's going to happen. So getting travel insurance, if there's anything that you take away, it's make sure that you have travel insurance, especially when you are abroad. And in this topic, Koke and I will be talking about our experiences with travel insurance. For me, I got salmonella. We talked about it in the Bali episode. Yes, it sucked. And no, I did not go to the hospital. I walked into the waiting room and then realized that it was going to be a $300 plus bill and a 3+ hour wait for me to get the help that I needed. And if I wanted to use the travel insurance that I had, I would have to pay out of pocket and then like send them the paperwork, and then they would approve it or whatever. And then I would get the money back. And for me, I was like, oh my God, like I really don't think that what's going on is a $300 plus bill dealing with travel insurance and a 5-hour plus wait. And you were there. It was in Perth in the hospital room with me. Like the vibe, I was like, this is not, I do not want to do this. So I was fortunate enough that where in Perth there was a private clinic where I could have gone there, got help right away, and it was $80. And for me personally, like that was the answer. I just that solved all my problems. That's all I needed to do. And that was like done and easy, and I was happy with that. However, not everywhere that you go is going to have private health and a private clinic. So you definitely need to do your research, because you might just find yourself in a situation where you don't have a choice. I'm really happy that I had a choice, and I'm happy that I spent the $80 instead of like $300, even though I would have gotten my $300 back. The peace of mind, like I just did not want to go through the hassle or the time.
Yeah.
Especially because you and Amelia were there with me, being like the absolute gems that you are. And I was like, I don't want to sit with my friends for 5 hours in a hospital waiting room when I feel like my insides are being in a trash garbage truck condenser. I was like, I just don't want to do this. I want to go back home and lay down. And so, yeah, private health worked really well for me. However, like I said, sometimes you don't get that choice, which is when I'm going to hand it over to Koke here and her hospital experience.
Yes. So I guess maybe I'll start it off with something that happened recently, not the major life-threatening thing that I experienced in Australia, but when I was in Canada, I also went to a hospital quite a few times up in Whistler. I had CO2 poisoning one day.
Crazy.
Wild story. But the way that my insurance in the United States experience in Australia, where you pay out of pocket and then they pay you back. And I did have to use that a few times in Canada with my CO2 poisoning, where I had to basically just breathe oxygen for 3 hours out of a
How did machine. You get CO2 poisoning?
Did I never tell you this story?
No, I don't think so.
Dude. So I'll make this short and I'll be very nice about it. But basically, my old housemate had this truck, this very old truck, and she, for some reason, thought it'd be a good idea to park it up in front of the house. This is like the door if you're watching, and park it up right outside of the front door and to work on it. And listen, I'm no car expert, but she said in order to work on it, the car had to be running.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't think...
I feel like that's dangerous.
It's dangerous. Never heard of it before. It's a really old truck. And the fumes, basically, the house became a vacuum and sucked all of these fumes into the house. And she was working on the car for over 40 minutes. And she was outside, so she was fine. But then I was out of the house, thank God. Because if I was home and taken a nap like I normally did, I probably could have died. Because it's like a quick process.
Well, I just think of Midsommar. Have you seen Midsommar, bro?
Yeah.
The first 15 minutes, so scary.
Literally. So I was out with Joe. I met him for lunch and I came back and the alarm was going off. I smelt it immediately in the house. She was gone at that point. And I'm like running around the house, opening up all the windows, freaking out. I'm like, what is this alarm? Like, what do I do? Who do I call? I found a number to call. People came. I just sat outside for an hour. But in that 5 minutes that I was in the house trying to open up all the windows, I got exposed enough to where I was really lightheaded. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't form sentences.
Oh my God.
I just knew I needed to go to the hospital. Like, I was so sick.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's
I
terrifying.
had poisoning. Yeah. It was very scary. The doctor was trying to like ask me questions like how this happened. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't think straight right now. I'm like, what? I'm like, I just know my roommate is a little
idiot,
dumb, to put it nicely, and left her car running in front of the house for 40 minutes.
That's insane. That is so dangerous.
Dude, yeah.
You could have really gotten hurt.
Yeah. But anyways, that is the lighter version
Yeah.
of what actually happened. Yeah.
That was nothing. Okay, yeah. Let's get into the big stuff.
So then, yeah, because we've already been talking a lot about this. Basically, so this is January of 2024. The first week of January 2024. Louise left Cairns where I was 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks prior. Mm-hmm. So I was fully on my own, solo at this point, just with people that I've known for under a month. Joe and I are seeing each other at this point. Nobody really knows. When I say nobody knows, I mean like people back home. it's at that point, 3 weeks in, nothing to write home about. Until it had to be something to write home about. Because I had to go to the hospital. Well, okay, that's jumping the gun a little bit. That's the way I revealed I had a boyfriend, basically, was him texting my family, being like, hey, I know you don't know who I am, but Anna's on her deathbed right now. Anyways, the way I get to my
parents.
deathbed.
They're like boyfriend,
Who
and
is
then
this
they're
man?
like, hospital. Yeah. Oh.
Literally. So I'll also preface this with, I didn't know how severe what was going on with me was until a few months after it happened, because I was so out of it this entire time that it was genuinely just Joe and any of my friends who visited me at the hospital talking with the nurses, or them handing my phone from the nurse to talk to my sister back home, who's a nurse.
Wow.
And I had, long story short, because this can be so much longer than it needs to be, I had an untreated UTI that then turned into a kidney infection that then turned into an infection in my blood, which is sepsis. And I was looking it up before so I could get the exact facts of what sepsis is and the mortality rate of it, but it's extremely dangerous. It's so dangerous, and it was so painful. It's a life-threatening condition that arises when the body's response to an infection spirals out of control, damaging its own tissues and organs. Oof. And it's not just an infection, it's like your immune system kind of shuts down, basically. And it almost goes into overdrive, is what it's saying. And the mortality rate for people between the ages of 15 to 44 is 10 to 20%. So
too much.
I mean, it's not.
No, that's
massive,
still high. That's still
but
high.
it's still
I wouldn't
pretty
get on
high.
an airplane if I had a 10 to 20 or 10 to 40% chance of crashing. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. So I ended up being in the hospital total for a week. I first didn't go. So because I got this travel insurance a month prior, I never used it before. I didn't know how it worked. And even though I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, was kind of gaslighting myself out of this sickness. Like I said, it happened from an untreated UTI, which now a year later I found out I don't get symptoms from.
That's also terrifying.
Which is how it went from 0 to 100. Yeah.
So you have to do a at-home test once a month or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
God. I'm so sorry.
And I have to be super, super hyper aware of every little change in my body.
Sorry, that's
so I can get on top of situations like this. Because it genuinely did go from 0 to 100 really quick. And I just thought at first I was having some really intense stomach cramps. I don't know if you know what cowboy caviar is.
I don't.
But it's like this bean salsa. It's like black beans, chickpeas, tomato, avocado, and it's like this yummy bean dish, basically, or dip. And I made some, and I thought, normally how people always have tummy issues from beans. I normally don't as a vegan vegetarian, but I went to work and one of my coworkers was like, yeah, last time I had cowboy caviar, I had the worst stomach cramps. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just having some really bad stomach cramps from this cowboy caviar that I had. So I gaslit myself for 3 days. I had to call out of work for 3 days leading up to me actually going to the hospital because I was so sick. I couldn't move. I couldn't sleep. I was sweating profusely all the time. I was in so much pain. Couldn't move. I was just bedridden for 3 days. And I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't know how my health insurance worked. So I was just like, I'll get better eventually. No. One night I woke up at 3 a.m. Joe was sleeping on the top bunk above me, and I just remember tapping him and being like, it's time to go. And he drove me to the hospital at 3 a.m. We go to the hospital, they take me in, they don't know what's going on. They're running hundreds of tests on me. Because, again, going back to the point, I had no symptoms of UTI. So when they're asking me all these questions of UTI symptoms, I'm like, no. So they just didn't think that it could possibly be a kidney infection. So they're kind of glancing over that, looking into everything else that it could be. And after one night, and it was probably about 18 hours total, that first stay in the hospital, they send me home with a bunch of medication. They send me home with Oxy. Like, they're like, here's a bunch of medication, you'll get better eventually. We don't know what it is.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm leaving the hospital still, like, I can't move, feeling so sick. Like, there's no way. But, like, okay. Go home. I attempt to sleep. I can't sleep. I wake up at, I think, 10 p.m. because I got out at, like, 7, maybe, the day prior. And I wake up and I don't feel well. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I have to go back to the hospital. Then I look at my phone. I have a call from the hospital saying, you need to come back in. We found an infection in your blood. And if you don't come back in, you'll die.
Oh. They left a message on your phone that said that?
Yes. I probably still have it somewhere. I'll try and find it.
I would have had a panic attack. I don't think
Yeah.
you could have gotten me to the hospital because I think I would have passed out on the floor from a panic attack.
Yeah. So
I can't believe they
I
just
went
left that
back
on the
immediately.
phone. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I guess they were just trying to convey how serious it was, but like I was feeling it. I was going to go back regardless of if I got that phone call because I was in so much pain.
Always trust your gut. Your gut was saying, please don't let me go.
Literally. Well, first it was Joe saying you need to go to a doctor. Like, this isn't normal. But then me being like, nah, I just had some bad cowboy caviar. No. I had an infection in my blood. But yeah, so then I'm there for another 6 days, transferred from room to room, running all of these tests every day and giving me all of this medicine constantly. I remember leaving with handfuls of medicine that I had to take 4 times a day.
Wow.
And it was a wild experience to go through something like that when you're with nobody that you've known longer than a month. And you're on the complete opposite side of the world. And like I said, my sister knew how serious this was. I didn't know how serious it was, and she wasn't telling any of my family members how serious it was because she didn't want anybody to panic and have to fly around the world.
I was going to say if any of your family members came to like be with you.
They were very close to.
Yeah.
But thankfully, by the 3rd day of me being in the hospital, like, we started to see an improvement in like my blood work and everything. So that's when I knew I wasn't going to die. But those first 48 hours, 72 hours was really, really bad.
That's so scary.
The worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. Which then, fast forward, I had another kidney infection in August of last year. The same exact thing, untreated UTI, was in the hospital for a week. This time, I was actually back home in New York. But it was the same exact thing.
And were you in the hospital for 6 days again?
I was in the hospital for 7 days again. Yeah. I missed my stepsister's wedding. That was the only reason I went back home, was to go to my stepsister's wedding. And then 2 days before the wedding, I was in the hospital for a week.
Oh my God.
But
as I said earlier, you need a break. Someone needs to give you a break.
I need a break. Since then, I've been healthy. Nothing of the sorts. But I'm just super susceptible to UTIs, I guess. Love this digital footprint I'm creating. And I don't get symptoms from it.
The question then I have is, how did you use your travel insurance then to pay for that bill? Because I'm assuming the bill was at least $10,000, right?
Yeah. So in the States, the bill, it was probably, I'm curious, I should check my insurance back home to see how much it would have cost, but a lot more than it cost in Australia. It was only $13,000 for a week stay, which I'm saying only, but this is like the American coming out of me, because it just seems so low for the amount of tests that they ran on me. It was crazy. Like, you name it, they did it, especially in those first 24 hours trying to figure out what was wrong with me. But yeah, so it was $13,000. I just had to submit one claim. I went with Bupa. Bupa is who I had bought it wasn't travel insurance, it was an Australian health care insurance plan for travelers, is what I ended up going with. And all of my medicine that I bought outside of it, if I just had the receipt, took a picture, got it covered. It was super easy. I filed it directly through the hospital, so I didn't have to pay for anything.
Amazing.
No money left my bank account. The only money that left my bank account was the monthly payment I was paying to Bupa, which is $30.
Easy. I'm sure they were like, oh.
Yeah.
No.
1 month in of this travel insurance.
People were like,
yeah.
God dang it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But good. I mean, hey, $13,000, that's debt. That's like,
yeah.
And that's why travel insurance is important. I'm sorry you had to go through that, though. Wow.
This, honestly, it could get darker and deeper. Do we want to touch on what happened?
I mean, that's up to you, because that's just entirely up to you.
I think I'll mention... Okay. This is also, I think, going to be another full episode on its own that I think I'm going to have my friend David, who was out in Australia with me for a little bit, come on and talk about. But basically, 2 days after I got out of the hospital, I get an Instagram DM saying that one of my best friends from school died.
Also, the person who made our Moving Guess Where I Am logo, every time I use it, I think of him. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's with us in the podcast.
Yeah, he is. He has worked on the podcast. I baked him brownies as a payment for that, for that logo. So that was, I mentioned like grief in the beginning of this episode. That was another huge thing to go through, especially 2 days out of the hospital after surviving my deathbed, basically, to then finding out that one of my best friends passed away. And again, I was surrounded by nobody that knew him. I've known the people who was around me for less than a month at this point. And it was just this extreme feeling and emotion and process that I had to go through completely alone. And I literally wasn't in the physical state. As badly as I wanted to go home, I actually couldn't. Like, it wasn't safe for me to get on a plane after being out of the hospital that soon.
Yeah.
So I had no other option to literally staying there.
And I'm sure
dealing with everything.
I mean, I remember when you texted me about it, and I was just extremely struck. I didn't know him as well as you did, but that was still painful for me to read because he was such a bright light. And yeah, and having to, like, the idea of not being able to get on a plane to be able to be with the people that you need to be with is it's just unreal. I have a question then, is what would you say, is that what, like, I mean, it brought you closer to the people around you, I'm assuming? Or how did you find a ways to navigate? And I guess this goes back to our original one, is like in your emotional intelligence now and being able to handle and heal with these type of feelings has probably gone up exponentially.
Yeah. So it definitely brought me closer to Joe. Obviously, like, we're still going strong a year and a half later, and I knew from the jump that he was going to be somebody that was in my life forever. I mean, think about it. We're with each other for 2 weeks officially at this point, and he's by my bed day and night 24/7 for a week. So I saw that in him immediately. And then for 2 days later after that, for me to grieve one of my best friends, he was by my side through it all. So it definitely brought us very close. It brought the people that were living at that hostel with me that I was friends with and hanging out with every day very close. Like, I don't think I would have been able to heal and get better if it wasn't for the people that was there for me then.
You
still
had
talk to them.
Incredible support system, which is always really important. And like, another positive note to take away from this is like, you do meet amazing people while you're traveling, and you do create like really strong relationships. And this is just a case in point to where, like, don't hold yourself back to making those connections. And it's really great to hear, at least as like your friend who wasn't there, that you were able to have a really good support system during that time. Because that's just, I mean, the timing of things quite terrible. What a nightmare.
Yeah. You could never plan that to happen. Like I said again in the beginning of the episode, expect the unexpected. Who would have thought I'd be in the hospital for a week on my deathbed. Then who would have thought 2 days after I get out, my best friend passes away. So it's like,
you need a break.
You have to
give her a break, please.
Need a break.
Someone please give Anna a break.
You have to be prepared for situations like this to happen.
Yeah, now I don't want to mess with you.
In some ways.
You're too strong. I don't want to mess with you. Uh-oh. You can handle anything. You can handle anything.
No
honestly.
more. I'm done. I'm done trying to handle things. Please give me a break.
You need a break, but also not to be messed with.
Yeah.
Because also now you have all those people who will probably ride or die for you. And you don't want to mess with them either. Her entourage, guys, not to be messed with. Okay? Her boyfriend is willingly walking up to black bears. Like, he'll send them on you. Like, careful. Careful, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing Joe related, though, that I think is crazy is that the first time he also met my family, my immediate family, in person was at the hospital in New York.
Wow.
Because that was the first time he came to New York to go to the wedding with me. So it's like the first time my parents knew he existed, hospital. First time they met him in person, hospital.
I feel like that's a good first impression, though. You know, at least your parents are like, okay, this guy I can trust. This guy has good intentions. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's there in sickness and health.
Literally. And we didn't even say the vows yet.
Yeah, exactly. The proof is in the pudding, guys.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of ready to get to topic 5, which is a positive one. And I placed this at the end on purpose because I knew we would get heavy in this episode. And it's important to talk about the heavy stuff because life always comes with its highs and lows. You can't escape it. It's going to happen. But you should never, ever, 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 ever give up. You should always try to push yourself. And because you'll always end up being a better version of yourself. Learning something new is so important. And just don't give up. Take every mistake or every painful moment as a way to grow as a person. And, you know, you're also creating really cool lore for when you get older. You can be that cool aunt, cool
Tell your
mom.
grandkids.
Yeah. You get to experience and see some really amazing things, meet really amazing people, eat really good food. So many people that I've talked to, like people who I would consider a mentor or who are role models to myself, if I have the opportunity to talk to them, I always ask, like, what's the best way to inspire you? Or what's the best way to avoid burnout? And it's almost always to travel. And that doesn't mean, like, get to a new country. We always say, like, you know, getting to a new country is really great. You know, culture's amazing. But that could also just be going to a new restaurant, talking to someone new at a cafe that you don't usually go to. Go to a new city. Go to a new state. Like, there are a lot of options to put yourself out there, but fear of or FOMO should not necessarily hold you back. Yeah, do you have like a point to add on that?
For sure. I think one of the things that Carson, my friend who passed, always said was, why not? And that was his motto. A bunch of my friends have it tattooed on them now. I have a different tattoo for him. But that's one thing that, since he's passed, I really live by, is why not? Why not go out and travel? Why not go experience everything and anything you can? Like, tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah.
Go and live your life while you can.
Exactly. But I love what your point. What if? I like that. That's great.
Why not?
No. Oh, sorry. Hold on.
It's why not.
Why not? That's it. I meant to say why not. What if is the bad version of, like, you don't want to be like, what if I went and did that? Like, go figure, find out. Why not? Go find out what happens. Also, I just was like, as like a cheeky response, I was like, the fans will love it. Your friends and your family, who I mean by your fans, your followers, like, they will love it. You know, so you're only getting supporters here. And if you can't find any supporters around you, you got Koke and I. We're supporting you.
True.
We're your biggest fan.
I'm always the biggest advocate to travel. Do it.
Just do it.
I'll be more mad at you if you don't travel.
Yeah, exactly. What the heck are you doing? Get up off the couch.
Not there.
All right.
Big episode. Should we just wrap it up?
Yeah,
I feel like we talked.
I think we're ready for a conclusion. We hope everyone has learned something from this, and hopefully our scary stories did not scare you away.
Yeah.
We only mean the best. All the stuff that we talked about and like the articles or journals that I referenced or the podcasts that Coke has listened to will be in the description box below if you want to further any of your research. I always recommend doing your own research. Once again, take everything that we say with a grain of salt because everyone's experiences are entirely different and you can't predict what's going to happen. But we just hope that you're prepared. Yeah.
And for my story, for example, it can happen everywhere and anywhere. It literally happened in both my home state, New York, and in Australia on the other side of the world. So it's not like it's only happening when you're traveling, these kinds of crazy things. It will happen back home. Or, I mean, it won't if you're healthy and all that, but still.
You never know.
I thought I was healthy too.
You never know.
You never know. Well, thank you for sticking around.
Yes.
This episode. We know it was a big one, a heavy one. We've been planning this for a while and now felt like the right time to kind of share.
Yes, we needed to get it off our chest so we can move on.
But we will see you in 2 weeks with another episode. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, literally anywhere and everywhere you can think of, we're there.
I guess we're a podcast, but I also have to say, don't check Reddit. There is something so wrong with our Reddit account, and I don't understand how to use that platform, and I've given up on it. So we are not
So
on
actually,
Reddit.
we take that back.
Take that back.
Sorry, Reddit.
Soon, maybe
one day.
Well, I was thinking like Substack. Have you heard of Substack?
Ooh, I have.
I know. So
that would be a good one for us instead of Reddit.
We might be on Substack instead of Reddit because Reddit is confusing and I can't change our goddamn username from laundry something to guess where podcast. I don't know. I can't figure it out and I give up.
So guess where I am coded.
Yeah, I know.
So guess where I am coded.
I know.
Technology loves us.
Hates us. Okay. Thanks for listening.
We will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.